Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I want to talk about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon and answer your questions regarding that show. I guess also talking about The Walking Dead just sort of in general, because there's some questions here about other stuff related to The Walking Dead. So yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. But let's get into the first question here. So Q&A, if you had the power to handle the storyline, how would you have done it? A tricky question, but be as creative or as honest as you want. I'm assuming you mean for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2. I think as of right now, I think that I'm okay with the way that they've told a lot of the story. I think that I would just have more episodes, because I think having the amount of episodes that they do have, it's really, like, you can't explain things, in the best way possible. And I think that's why you have to, make very fast decisions and have certain moments happen very quickly, right? Like, I think that's why we're seeing Carol find the plane immediately. Like, that's why a lot of this stuff is happening. Like, it seems so ridiculous and people are laughing about it, but that's why they're doing that, is because they don't have the time to actually really properly explain these characters, or Carol specifically, getting to France, right? So, you're going to have her seeing the plane right away, because you just have to get her to France, I guess by the end of episode 2, like we saw. This way we can actually see some of the story play out. And again, 6 episodes to me just does not work, and I really don't know why they're doing 6 episodes. Like, for the first seasons, it made sense, and I think that's why, for me personally, I was okay with Dead City Season 1, because I think for 6 episodes of that show, I think it worked well, because they set up the story really well. You just had Maggie and Negan going to New York, and then, I guess, finding Herschel. Like, it was a very simple story, and then it introduced, a lot of, I guess, New York City and Manhattan, and, having Negan over there, introducing Bruegel and the Dama and all that for Season 2, and New Babylon. Like, it really set up the story really well, where we have a lot of questions on how everything works, and I think that Season 2 is going to explain a lot of it. So I think Dead City actually did a really great job. I would say Daryl Dixon Season 1 did a really great job, but it's just in Season 2, now you have to explain things properly and get into some of the bigger reveals and all of that. And again, we're still only 2 episodes in. We'll see what the season actually gives us here in terms of, plans, I guess, for what's the next planning to do if Laurent was actually the cure. Like, I feel like they're never going to address that, because they're never going to get to the point where they actually learn that Laurent is the cure, which to me is an issue. Like, that's why we need more episodes. Honestly, we do need more episodes here of The Walking Dead, because it's one of those things that is very frustrating to watch, because they do rush a lot of the stuff here, and it just doesn't feel like you're watching a real season of The Walking Dead. Like, I'm just happy that Dead City is going to have 8 episodes, honestly. I think that, having 8 episodes is definitely a bigger improvement. I thought 6 episodes was always going to be the thing for, the very first seasons, because The Walking Dead had that. I never expected them to go back to, 16 episodes or something like that. Like, I never really expected that. But 6 episodes per season, really, again, it's just not enough. And I get it, having 16 episodes focused on, Daryl and Carol, or Maggie and Negan, maybe that's too much, right? When you had the whole cast together, I think that would work a lot better. But 6 episodes, that's just not enough at all. I think you need 8 episodes, maybe 10, somewhere around there. You can definitely work out a story there for that amount of episodes, and you don't have to rush everything here. Things don't have to seem very convenient. You can actually focus more time on the story, and I think fans would appreciate that overall, instead of what we have right now, right? Which, again, right now I don't really have too much concerns, but in terms of Carol getting to France, I think that's really the only issue I would have overall. It's just that everything that happened in the very first episode was just a little too convenient in how it set up the story. A lot of it made sense. I understand why they're doing it, but again, I think that's what I would change to the story here for the most part, is I would just have more episodes to explain a lot of this, or else, honestly, I would just change it a little bit, where maybe the plane wasn't really a part of it, and maybe there was another ship that actually went there to, the mechanic shop, right? And then I would just have Carol go on that ship, and then maybe it sort of plays out in the same way or whatever. I have no idea how it would play out, but then it's just way more realistic, I think. But Q&A, when, if ever, are we getting an Aaron and Gabriel spinoff, or even one of the other characters? It's funny, because I actually did a video, I have it planned to come out at some point this weekend, but I talk about this idea, actually, the fact that Aaron and Gabriel, for some reason, those characters are the most popular idea for a spinoff, focused on Alexandria, or maybe a different place or something. But I mean, I don't know, honestly. I don't think we're ever going to get that. They're going to give us an original series, that they'll give us other shows, and Aaron and Gabriel could appear in the other spinoffs, but I think that's really it for the most part. And again, I really want an original series, but I think in terms of an Aaron and Gabriel spinoff, I don't really see it happening. Q&A, what are your starting thoughts on what we've seen with Daryl Dixon season 2? So in terms of my overall review of the season so far, I'm enjoying it. I think that I see a lot of negative reaction, and I think a lot of it is because of some of the, Daryl and Carol and Daryl and Isabel stuff. I really feel like most of the negative reaction is because of that, which is kind of frustrating, so I just ignore all of that. But in terms of what we've gotten so far, there's little issues that I've explained in the video here. I've talked about obviously in my reviews, but the first episode I thought was decent. After watching the second one, I sort of realized some of the issues with the first one, but I still like the first one overall. But second one was really great. I think the third one's also going to be probably better. I imagine this season's going to get better and better as we keep going here. I've heard some great things about episode 4 specifically, and then episode 6, but I think 4 is like the most popular one or the most well-liked one. So I think that's sort of what I'm expecting. And again, I like the story overall. I'm concerned about like some of the motives with some of the groups, but we'll have to wait and see. After I watch, I guess, all 6 episodes here, then I'll give my full, like, honest opinion on the season. And, I'm always honest with my opinion, right? Like, I remember with The Ones Who Live, like, I had to be honest with my feelings towards the finale when I did my review. And, that was fun. But honestly, over time since then, I think a lot of people have realized, actually, a lot of the issues with the finale. I think at first you're so happy to see, like, the very ending scene, which I was too at first, but then you start thinking, like, well, how does this make sense? Well, like, what about this? And you start really looking at the episode and like, man, they wrapped up things so fast here and there, and it was just like, that's way too much. And again, this goes back to the other question, but I really feel like it is because it's 6 episodes. Like, that really is the issue here. Q&A, if you were to create your own Walking Dead universe show, when in the timeline would you place it and where? Well, I would go back to, or I would do 2 things. I would go, obviously to like the very beginning, like the outbreak. I think that stories around that timeline are a lot of fun. I think you could do a lot of things that really work well there. And then I think if anything, I would go like 40 or 50 years into the future. And like, which definitely would be really, spoilery in a sense of how the world operates, but maybe you can make drastic story decisions of like, walkers act like this now, and it's like totally different. And you're like, wait, how does that make sense? Like, maybe all the walkers are now running everywhere, and you're just like, wait, that's such a crazy thing to have changed. Like, when would that have happened? I don't know, just something to make it a little bit more fresh. And then I would introduce a lot of, really exciting newer characters, and then just sort of build a world around that. But I think you need to have the initial premise there really exciting, because this is an apocalypse show, right? It's a show about the apocalypse. And I think that, Daryl Dixon did it well, and I think overall they're doing it well. But I almost feel like a lot of the spinoffs, and really it's a complaint with The Walking Dead throughout the last, like, however many years, like a very, very long time now, even with the original series, which is like, they really just tell character stories in the apocalypse, but they kind of ignore the apocalypse quite a bit. And I think that the spinoffs have been doing a really great job of like bringing that fear back, like with the zombies and everything. And I think that's really great, but I worry about the future, that they're starting to like, go back from that a little bit, because Gimple wants to tell classic Walking Dead stories, and that's awesome. I really can't wait for that. But the bigger world stuff and the crossovers and everything, that's all very, very important. You sort of have to do both of them, I think. So Q&A, if we get The Ones Who Live season 2, do you think they could do to continue the storyline with the CRM in some ways, or something new? Well, I feel like they should just focus on something else, because in terms of fan reaction to the CRM, I think if you want to even do a story there, you need to build up interest in a way that's going to be really exciting. And I think just like having the story set, in that place, and even if the CRM became villains because of Beale's spies and all of that, like, I just don't think people would be fans of it. Like, there's just so much, I don't know, I could just sort of see how that would go, and I just don't really think that would be smart. But I think you could fix a lot of things where, just introduce a new villain, focus on a new story, focus more on something really exciting, and then have the CRM involved in the story, and this way a lot of it makes sense. You would just have to focus on fixing a lot of the story from The Ones Who Live finale, and just trying to, make it a little bit more exciting for a season 2. But Q&A, besides The Walking Dead, what shows/movies have you enjoyed lately? Well, I haven't watched a lot of TV shows lately, I would say. Like, Fallout, I watched earlier in the year. I really enjoyed that. Hockey's back, so I've been watching hockey. I guess Terrifier 3, I'm really excited for that. I watched the first one not too long ago. Maybe that was like a month or 2 ago. Honestly, for me personally, I am really trying to watch more movies and TV shows, and especially because it's Halloween, I really want to watch like again, my plan was to watch a movie every single night, and I really haven't been able to do that. And the reason is because I'm a single father of 3, and I just don't have the time. I really don't. Like at nighttime when I put them to bed, at that point, I just want to go to bed. Like I'm just so tired, and sometimes I'll put a movie on, but I'm also just like, well, I don't know. I just sort of fall asleep to it. Like it is very, very hard to do that. And so, I mean, I'm trying, honestly, I really am trying. I do want to watch the Twilight Zone again. I've watched the Twilight Zone a lot. So that's a show I really, really love. Again, it's one of those things that for me personally, I really like the horror genre the most. The horror genre is like my favorite of all time. Like I really like music stuff and everything, and I usually can watch a lot of that. But when it's just me and the kids, I really can't watch, horror movies and stuff. So I have to, again, hockey is always one of the things that I watch, or I listen to a lot of podcasts and all that. But that's sort of what I've been watching lately. But yeah, Q&A. What media has you excited for its release? So in terms of, I guess, like games or movies or TV shows, Nosferatu, I'm really excited for that movie to come out. Obviously Terrifier 3 as well. I do have my tickets for that. I'm really excited. It's 2 days away from now, so I can't wait to watch that. In terms of games, I really don't know. Like I was really excited about Black Ops 6 because of the zombie mode, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I do want to see more reviews for that and see how all that plays out. I'll probably end up getting it because I've gotten every single game so far, but Zombies does look better, but it still sort of looks like Cold War zombies, so I don't know. I really want them to go back to Black Ops 3. I heard that Nuketown's going to be a part of this as well, so that's kind of cool, but honestly, I wasn't really the biggest fan of Nuketown back in the day. For multiplayer, yeah, but like for zombies and all of that, like I'm honestly just more excited to have a clean house and, relax, and then maybe potentially watch a movie, but then I just fall asleep. That's my life right now. But Q&A. In the comic, The Alien, we learn Jeffrey Grimes has been living in Spain, and with the 3rd season of Daryl going to Spain, do you think it's possible we could see Jeffrey, or that maybe he is secretly in charge of the whole operation in Paris? Well, I don't know about that last part. The whole thing with Jeffrey Grimes is it really depends on how they view, I guess, that story. Because I think at first I viewed it as ridiculous, but over time I started to accept the idea a little bit more. And I think I've accepted it a lot more because I just look at it like, well, it makes sense. Like it is a comic book story. It's not like you're just coming up with the idea out of nowhere. Like if they just came up with the idea out of nowhere, I'd be like, this makes no sense. Because remember, in the comics, Rick never mentions his brother. There's never a mention of Jeffrey Grimes. Laurie mentions him, I think, in the very, very beginning of the comic. So again, it was really, his brother was ignored the entire time. Like there was no mention. If you read the comics and you literally missed that one piece of dialogue in the very beginning, you're probably like, well, he doesn't have a brother, right? And so to me, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if maybe Rick never even really meets his brother on the show. I think that maybe you meet Jeffrey Grimes, but he dies before he ever gets back to America. Maybe he just dies in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. In this way, it's like, yeah, he met his brother. He can tell Rick about that. And then Rick would be like, oh, wow, or whatever. But like, he never really gets to meet his brother. Like that would really be similar to the comics as well. So I think that, again, there's a lot of ways that you can do this and really pull it off where it makes sense. Q&A, if Dead City takes place years after both spin-offs, wouldn't that mean Laurent is not the cure, given the fact that there are still walkers in that universe? Yes, you're definitely very right on that. I really do think he's not the cure. I think that if he were to get bit by a walker, then he would just turn to a walker. Like, I think in season 1, it was really interesting, like, with what they were creating. But I also like the turn in the story here a little bit, because in season 1, you really you got into the whole beliefs of what everyone was saying, because it seemed very, like, magical. Like, oh, wow, maybe he is the cure, because everyone really believes it. He was born from a walker, so that already is just like, wait, what? Right? So like, it almost seems like it could be real, and it's exciting, right? And then you get into season 2 and you start to realize, okay, the people that really believe this, they're kind of insane, right? Like it's different having beliefs of like whatever, but they're actually wanting Laurent to get bit by a walker. That's where I'm just like, okay, never mind. You've gone too far. Like, to me now, I think the Nest are just complete villains. Like, I think that's just the Nest now. And so, yeah, I think that he's not the cure, and I think that, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I really don't, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Q&A. Do you believe in the opening credits of Daryl Dixon season 2 with the helicopter? Is that an Easter egg nod to Rick Grimes potentially being in the show somehow, or a backstory to the CRM in connection with Madame Janae and the Superwalkers? And second question, would you like to see a Negan Live spinoff after Dead City ends? Love your content. Well, in terms of doing a Negan Live spinoff, I don't know if that's possible, because that was really just one issue. If anything, I would love to see Robert Kirkman continue that story, and I don't know when he's going to be getting around to that. Maybe when the Walking Dead Deluxe issues are over. That's sort of what I'm expecting, so that might be a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years from now. They're almost at issue 100 already, so I think another 3 years, probably 3 to 4 years, maybe less than that. You know, once that's over, like, what are they going to do with The Walking Dead? Just leave it there after that? I think they might actually do another story at that point. I think Robert Kirkman has likely already worked out a lot of the story and stuff, and so, yeah, I think we're just sort of waiting for that as of right now. And in terms of your first question, I do think the helicopter probably is like an Easter egg to Rick Grimes. I think that makes sense, but in terms of what it means overall, you know, is there going to be a story for season 2? I'm going to say probably not. You know, I really don't think so. I think that it really is just one of those things where they always have to have helicopters around, just because I feel like it is sort of an Easter egg to moments like that. Like in a moment like that on Daryl Dixon, right, like in the opening credits, I feel like that's really just supposed to represent the apocalypse. Like helicopters are destroyed, this and that, and so obviously it means more to Walking Dead fans looking at a moment like that, so I think that's why they included it, but I don't think it's going to mean that much to the story. I think eventually, like that's the thing about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, the show's going to get like, what, 5 or 6 seasons, I think, at the most. Like I know they're talking about a season 4 right now, and then I think that after that, they're probably hoping to do a season 5 or a 6, but I can't see it going on more than that. Honestly, going on more than season 5 and 6, like a season 7 and 8, I never really saw The Walking Dead going on for as long as it did, or Fear the Walking Dead, you know, around the time around season 3 or 4 with Fear. I remember thinking, well, season 5 or 6, they'll probably end it, and they kept renewing it and renewing it. So who knows? Like, honestly, we really like don't know with that, but I'm assuming season 5 or 6 will be the last seasons for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, and then they'll go into a bigger story. Or maybe season 4 is the last season of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, and, you know, there's going to be a build-up to finding out more stuff about Rick Grimes and Daryl getting back to America by the time we get to season 4's finale, right? We'll have to wait and see how this all plays out, but I'm really excited about all of that, and I can't wait to see where the story is going to go. And yeah, but anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.